Did you know what wild tribes do to strangers? Some cut, some burn, and some just eat them like some delicacy. I've gathered the craziest and most secluded tribes of the Amazon with strange rituals and inhumane traditions. Yep, it's better not to mess with these guys. And let's start with the Yanomami. They are one of the most well-known indigenous peoples of the Amazon. They possess a unique culture and way of life, deeply rooted in their mythology and traditions. According to legends, the origin of the Yanomami is linked to the blood of the moon and mythical creatures, which gives their culture a special mystical atmosphere. Located in the territories of Venezuela and Brazil, the Yanomami live in the jungles along the Sierra Parima and the Upper Orinoco, where they have built their communities in special houses called shabanos. These round structures with an open space in the middle are ideal for living in the tropical climate and provide convenience for social gatherings and rituals. Yanomami society is characterized by the absence of centralized authority, as they adhere to egalitarian principles. Shamans play a key role, conducting rituals and ceremonies, such as inhaling hallucinogenic yopo powder, which is an important part of their spiritual life. Yanomami women and men have different roles, but each is critically important for the survival and well-being of their communities. Men engage in hunting and fishing using bows, while women also fish using nets and hooks, and engage in gathering. An important part of Yanomami life is maintaining a connection with nature, reflected in their diet, which includes products from their own gardens, hunting, and gathering. The main staple in their diet is bitter cassava, from which they make porridge and cassava cakes. Yanomami rituals and traditions, such as funerals where they mix the ashes of the deceased with water and drink it, demonstrate a deep respect for life and death, which is an integral part of their cultural heritage. These customs, along with their unique worldview and relationship with nature, make Yanomami culture one of the most unique in the world. But consuming ashes is just the tip of the iceberg. It gets much harsher from here. And here we have the Ashaninka. They are one of the largest indigenous peoples, most of whom live in Peru, numbering around 40,000 people. Can you imagine? Almost a whole city! These people speak the Ashaninka language, which belongs to the Arawakan language group of Kampa and is divided into several dialects. Historically, the Ashaninka traded with the Inca Empire, then endured the Spanish conquest, Catholic Christianization, and the rubber boom period. The Ashaninka inhabit the humid tropical forests of western Peru and the eastern Amazon lowlands. Their lands stretch from the Andean foothills in the Peruvian regions of Junín, Pasco, Huánuco, and Ucayali to the plains in the Brazilian state of Acre. Traditionally, the Ashaninka slept directly on the ground, covered with woven coconut palm leaves under simple shelters. But today, most of them live in open houses on stilts. They repeatedly sweep their homes and yards during the day, emphasizing their commitment to cleanliness. Families usually sleep on simple wooden platforms, and small children either sleep with their parents or in their small hammocks. Traditional Ashaninka clothing, known as kushma, is made of dense bark fibers or cotton, differing in decorations and cut among men's and women's clothing. In agriculture, they practice slash-and-burn cultivation, growing cocoa, rice, sweet cassava, sweet potatoes, and corn. Due to the remoteness of their fields, the Ashaninka build temporary shelters called chakras to stay closer to the land they cultivate and sometimes spend several weeks there. They hunt using bows and firearms. Women engage in fishing, floating on balsa rafts. The Ashaninka also maintain traditions of pottery making, weaving, and dugout canoe building. Community management is carried out through elected positions, which can be held by both men and women, maintaining principles of equality and democracy in their communities. Even more astonishing and mysterious is the Amondawa Tribe. These people literally live outside of time. How is that possible? Well, it's easy. In their language, there are simply no words that could reflect time. That is, literally they cannot say yesterday or today. It seems to me that in today's society with its frenetic pace of life and eternal deadlines, these people are the happiest on the planet. The world learned about this tribe in 1986, and people were simply shocked at how few words there are in their speech. For example, the inhabitants of the tribe won't specify which body of water they found something near. They literally say, "by the water." And all because these ancient people simply don't know other words. They don't know that there are rivers, lakes, seas, oceans. For them, there's only water. And the word shore is also absent from their lexicon. But most surprising is the fact that in this tribe, they still don't know how old anyone is. They don't even know when someone's birthday is. And when these people talk about events, they also don't mention whether it happened before or will happen later. The residents only change their names depending on the incident. For example, when a new child is born into a family, the youngest children give them their name, and they take a new one. But the most amazing thing is that scientists have long tried to teach the Amondawa people other languages. Portuguese, for example, comes easily to them. It's amazing that the concept of time Aborigines easily memorize and use in conversation in modern languages, but they don't incorporate these changes into their daily lives. Now, the Pirahã Tribe stood out in that they completely changed the worldview of one missionary with their way of life. This remarkable preacher was named Daniel Everett. His first contact with indigenous people was in 1977. At that time, he tried to convey all aspects of the Word of God to the members of the Pirahã Tribe. However, nobody understood his words back then. Daniel was quite stubborn. He realized that to persuade the natives, he needed to learn their language, which he did. After some time, the missionary was able to master the language of the Pirahã Tribe, and what he discovered shocked him. In their language, there was no indirect speech, no words for colors, and not even numbers. But what surprised the priest the most was that these people had not created any myths or theories about how the world came into being. They didn't even have a calendar. But most astonishingly, the intelligence level of the natives was on par with modern humans. The way the Pirahã Tribe conducted their lives was also remarkable. They had no private property, meaning all homes belonged to the community. They also didn't store food for the future. Literally, all the food that was obtained was eaten immediately, and they had no plans for development in the future. In general, the people of the tribe fully enjoyed every day spent on this earth. This greatly astonished Daniel Everett, seeing how these primitive people lived, what basic things they rejoiced in, and how they enjoyed what nature gave them. The missionary began to ask questions. Does God exist if unknown savages live day by day on what nature provides? And why believe in an unknown entity at all, when you can enjoy a carefree and fearless life? He couldn't answer these questions in a way that would continue to serve the church in his mind. As a result, Daniel Everett, a devoted servant of God, completely renounced faith and became an atheist. It sounds very shocking, doesn't it? Even in the 21st century, there are still quite a few wild tribes on Earth. You may have heard about some of them in previous clips, but today I will tell you about the most interesting communities that can be found in modern Brazil. And leading our list is probably one of the scariest tribes, known as the Korubo. These people live in remote areas of the Amazon rainforest. The exact population of this tribe is unknown. Different sources report hundreds and thousands of settlers. The Korubo live extremely isolated from the outside world. They deliberately choose hard-to-reach places to found settlements to make it harder to discover them. So much so that until 1996, their tribe was considered extinct. However, this didn't save them. It was only after their discovery that one scientist was finally able to establish contact with the tribe. While the data and knowledge obtained were very useful for modern society, it was a serious trial for the Korubo. The thing is, such a closed settlement simply didn't know about the diseases that prevailed in the modern world. Because of this, many of the inhabitants simply perished. After such a terrible incident, the Brazilian authorities prohibited contact with the tribe. But the most amazing thing is that the Korubo practice cannibalism, and not just towards other people. They can even eat their own kind. Personally, this information shocks me. But as it turns out, they don't engage in such behavior often, only in the worst of times when food is almost gone. Cannibalism is perhaps the only way to survive in such times, although this doesn't negate the horror of such an act. Another amazing fact about this tribe is that the local residents adhere to monogamous relationships, meaning with one partner. This fact is simply astonishing, as other tribes both in the Amazon and around the world adhere to polygamy, having multiple spouses. And for an ancient people, this is especially strange, as it immediately raises the question of how they survived at all. And the last mysterious tradition that is important to mention is the initiation rite for young men. To move up a level and become fully adult, young men must spend a whole night alone in the cemetery. Another interesting tribe bears the proud name Tremembé. These people are notable for how they have adapted to the rapidly changing conditions of the modern world. Before the first contact with Europeans, the Tremembé lived a fairly peaceful life. They engaged in agriculture, hunting, and gathering. In general, the most ordinary primitive life. But everything began to change rapidly with the arrival of colonizers. The Tremembé tribe's rights were severely infringed upon. These people were literally driven out of the territories that belonged to them. As a result, in the 19th century, the tribe ceased to exist on paper. The remaining representatives of the Tremembé were considered descendants of an ancient race, but not a separate ethnic group. This continued until the end of the 20th century. At that time, the tribe finally earned recognition from the state. And this fact is very noteworthy, as it is to this ancient people that the candidate for the presidency of Brazil, Kuna Ipora Tremembé, belongs. It's simply astonishing how ancient people were able to adapt to modern life in such a short time. It would seem that in the modern world, all primitive people should have disappeared long ago. The age of technology, computers, flying cars. But in reality, the number of tribes living in the Amazon region is astonishing. If you think I've told you about all the shocking and interesting tribes, you're deeply mistaken, because the next indigenous people will literally shock you. The Sinta Larga tribe once numbered more than 5,000 people, and in our time, there are barely 1,000 left. But the saddest part is that such a rapid decrease in the population is due to our civilization. The discovery of this tribe was first documented in 1915. At that time, a small group of travelers were attacked by the natives, resulting in one death. Around the same time, it was established that there were many valuable minerals in the territory inhabited by the warlike people. In the 20s of the same century, there were many who wanted to get rich. First, they discovered huge groves of rubber trees there. Naturally, progressive society couldn't leave it like that, and a literal hunt began for this vegetation. Along with tree felling, the prospectors killed the natives. They had heard of their cruelty, so they did it for their own safety. Naturally, the inhabitants of the tribe didn't like this. They made frequent raids and killed workers. The situation escalated when huge deposits of diamonds and other valuable minerals were discovered on their territory. The prospectors who sought to get rich even more alarmed the natives, and to protect the ancient customs of the indigenous people, the authorities created a special reservation for this tribe, where, theoretically, no other people should have entered. But even this didn't help. There were still plenty of diamond hunters. Because of this, a real tragedy occurred in 2004. One spring day, the natives managed to capture 29 people. What did they do with them? Of course, they brutally killed them. But the Sinta Larga tribe is not only known for its terrible atrocities, their customs are also interesting. Men from this tribe changed their names several times throughout their lives. Why do they do this? To denote their status or the events they have experienced? I'll tell you more, they have names that only their parents know. An amazing tradition, isn't it? But all the stories about the previous peoples of the Amazon from my list literally pale in comparison to the mysterious history of the Kayapo tribe. According to legend, many thousands of years ago, near their camp in the mountains, on an ordinary day, a terrible rumble was heard. After that, an unknown figure descended from there, whom they would call Beb Kararodi in the future. This creature wore very strange clothing that covered its body from head to toe, and in one hand, it held a terrible weapon. The locals dubbed it Kop, and according to legend, it shot lightning bolts that literally wiped everything off the face of the earth. Naturally, such an incident seriously frightened all the natives. They hurried to hide behind bushes and trees, but after a little time, they still decided to approach the stranger. All the men of the tribe stood up to defend the women and children and attacked the stranger with spears and bows. However, Everything that hit his clothing immediately broke. The newcomer decided to show everyone his power and fired a couple of times from his weapon. After that, no one dared to fight him anymore. The Kayapo tribe called the stranger Beb Kararoti and made him their leader. And by the way, it was just a great decision. The newcomer turned out to be a very wise and fair ruler. He told the natives about new hunting methods, taught them about medicine, and showed them how to build houses. According to myths, Beb Kararoti possessed superhuman strength, which is why he was called a god. He could literally subdue the minds of people. Disobedient children who refused to learn were always sent to the god. With the help of his power, the newcomer suppressed their will. Moreover, legends say that he could cause paralysis or even kill someone without striking them. Isn't that a miracle? These were the most mysterious and dangerous tribes of the Amazon. And if you love everything new and interesting, know how to write scripts, edit or voiceover videos, then write to the Telegram bot using the link in the description. You can become part of our team! And thanks for watching.